More people in the world are bilingual than monolingual. But until recently, here in the United States, being bilingual was thought to be something of a problem. The assumption has been that all individuals should speak English and that other languages were potentially not that important, or in language learning was perfectly acceptable, but not really a crucial goal that people should have in their lives. What we now know is that being bilingual confers a set of advantages to people across the lifespan, from young infants being exposed to two languages at once, to young children in school, and to young adults and even older adults. What we know is that all of the mythology that many people hold in the US, that young babies exposed to two languages are going to be confused, or that young children are going to suffer academically from learning to speak and read in two languages, that older adults may suffer decline more severely if they're not simply monolingual speakers of English. All of the mythology is simply not true. And perhaps the most striking mythology is that when we hear proficient bilinguals speak both languages to others with whom they switch. So they may switch from one language to the other right in the middle of a sentence. And that kind of switching or language mixing that's very common used to be thought of as being a problem, used to be thought of as being pathological to some degree. And what we now know is that that's simply not true. That the studies that have been done, both on young developing bilinguals and on older adults who are beginning to suffer cognitive decline, is that being bilingual is a protection, and in addition to providing the ability to speak more than one language, enables individuals to navigate their cognitive world in a way that is more flexible and that permits opportunities that would not otherwise exist. What we're going to do is we're going to talk a bit about the evidence on children and a bit on the evidence on old age, because the two ends of the lifespan, from early infancy to old age, are perhaps the studies that are the most dramatic. But we invite you to consider how these myths that exist in our culture might be revised.
The most exciting findings come from the child and older adult literature. Researchers using sophisticated methods of data collection that capitalize on infants' natural behaviors, along with careful experimental design, have demonstrated that the advantages conferred by bilingualism show up even in the earliest months of life. When adults speak, for example, bilingual infants look at adults' lips at an earlier age than monolingual infants do, and they do so for longer periods of time, providing the first evidence that bilingual babies figure out how to learn two different languages as easily as monolingual infants learn one. And this is important because it shows that, contrary to popular views of many parents, educators, policymakers, and even pediatricians, learning two languages does not confuse children. Another important finding is that 6-month-old babies growing up in a bilingual environment are better than monolingual babies at rapidly forming internal memory representations of novel visual stimuli. So by 11 months of age, the brains of bilingually exposed babies are not only sensitive to both languages, but also show evidence of enhanced neural activity in areas of the brain that are involved in executive function, which is the brain's functions that allows us to carry out complex tasks such as solving problems or planning a sequence of activities, inhibiting information that has already been perceived, or even monitoring performance. And this is a very exciting finding. Another significant finding is that the benefits within the domain of executive control have been found across levels of socioeconomic status. And in this respect, bilingual language skill is relevant to academic success in children from dual language homes because bilingualism is associated with an advantage in linguistic and non-linguistic tasks. So the take-home message is that research that has systematically examined earlier and concurrent acquisition of a home language and a majority language suggests a number of positive linguistic, cognitive, and academic outcomes that have the potential for significant impact both for bilingual children and also for society.
So we conclude with the question that we think is probably very pressing on your mind after what we've said. Will bilingualism save you from old age? And the answer to that question is no. Bilinguals age the same way monolinguals age, but there are some very exciting new results that suggest that bilingualism provides protection against some of the cognitive symptoms that occur with aging. So in one case, we see that when bilinguals, like monolinguals, are diagnosed with dementia, that the bilingualism does not protect them against the disease itself, but what it does do is it appears to protect them against the symptoms, the cognitive symptoms. So the research shows that bilinguals are about 4 to 5 years older than monolinguals at the point where they're diagnosed. And what's notable is that there is no known drug that has that kind of benefit. So bilingualism seems to stave off the symptoms of cognitive decline associated with dementia. It may also help healthy, normal older adults in maintaining their cognitive flexibility. The other finding that we note is that it's not ever too late to learn a second language. The research suggests that we humans have tremendous plasticity in learning, and that learning a new language may benefit you well beyond early childhood and adulthood, so that even older adults are able to learn new languages and benefit from that experience.